film sucks. Indie film sucks. It's the Indie Film Sucks podcast. Yeah.
Coming at you from the mean streets of St. Louis from a basement on South Broadway, the Indie Film Sucks podcast.
Take two.
Forgot to record the first fucking time, so here we are again.
It was only 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's fine.
It was honestly some of our best stuff.
You didn't miss anything. Hey, we have James Dean back again.
Hey, what's up, James? How you doing?
This is my third episode, but second recorded.
Yes.
All right, we got Chris Mackey, Chris Grega, and Brock Roberts here, and awesome James Dean back for round two.
Woo! Round two, yeah. Two.
2.5. 2.5.
2.5.
2.5.
My suck was not having enough time in the day. Wishing I had more people, more versions of myself to craft, just everything that needs to be done when it comes to filmmaking. Outside of the art, like the business side of it. Well, I mean, even the art side of it, but like just all of it. It's just too much.
Forget the art side. I mean, it's
Right.
important.
No, I mean, no, you're right.
But the back end stuff
Yeah.
is so much more at our level. It's so much more important, and it's so much more work, and it's not the fun stuff. It's not the fun work. It's the grind that you got to do.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, it's to your detriment.
And that's the in-between stuff, but let's go to the fun stuff real quick. So the fun stuff of independent film is every now and then we get to see our work in front of a crowd.
Right. Yeah.
And we got to see XXX-Mas, and I want to hear about your experience on that.
It was a lot of fun because it was my first time with an audience around me, as opposed to our first film, which was at a drive-in, and it's different, everyone's in cars, and I remember with that one, I went from car to car at different scenes just to see people's reactions. I was like, oh yeah, Brian Davis has a moment right here. I'm going to go over to his car and make sure I see how his reaction.
Hey, here you are. Here's your, shit, we missed I'm sorry.
This is that big moment.
We just missed it.
Oh, never mind.
Let me win. James is coming.
I've had that happen to me, man. I was
Here it comes.
in Rhineland, I had some relatives sitting next to us, and they saw me on camera. Oh, hey, there you are. I had one line right there. You just fucked it all up. But yeah, that's great.
No, yeah, it's
At our screening, it was, I think, your relatives sitting in front of me were like taking pictures of the screen, and like everything was lit up. I'm like, wow, really?
Yeah.
Thank you. But anyway,
I was at Days of the Dead horror convention 3 or 4 weeks ago. There was some filmmakers I went and saw their short films, and the one guy who was somehow involved with the film, I'm not sure exactly what all he was doing, like 6'4", and like he had a full throw, and he was sitting in the middle, and like the third of the screen was blocked, and like it was a packed theater, or a packed room.
You couldn't move.
I couldn't really. I was like, I want to see this, but I'm like, I kept leaning over. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was definitely an energy that I've never experienced before, and watching people or listening to people react to things that worked, and then the things that didn't work. It was really interesting. It was very informative as far as watching what did and didn't work, and then listening to people enjoy one moment or not getting a moment. There's one joke that every time I saw it, I thought was just the funniest thing in the world. It wasn't even something I wrote. And, like, no one laughs at it. Like, no one's laughed at any of the viewings. And I'm like, okay, yeah. I don't know.
The energy was good. I was there. There's a lot of people were there having a good time. And the group, you had some actors there to see it with you.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They had a great time.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that I've worked with before in different ways, but this was, like, their first, like, major premiere, like, film premiere. So they were coming out, and they were, like, really, like, dressed up and everything. You guys dressed better at my premiere than I dressed at my premiere. I've said before, and I know that people, like, whatever, they probably just, like, think I'm weird, and I am. But, like I said, the only way I'd ever have a red carpet is if we spilled blood on it. Because, like, I'm just not...
Yeah.
I understand dressing up. I mean, you guys all looked great at your premiere, like I said. Well, and I showed up.
My wife made me.
No, and I get it. I showed up in a freaking hoodie, you know? And
right.
I mean, you know what? That's I think I wore the same thing to my premiere as I wore to yours.
I think you did.
Is that
No,
right?
isn't it some of that about the people that are coming, to experience? Rocky always talk about the experience,
Yeah, we
creating experience
Yeah,
for
we-
the film
exactly.
goers.
Right. For me, a lot of it is, it took 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would never have sat here in front of cameras and been here talking to you like this. I do not like being the center of attention. I do not like, you could tell. I said
the
a
end of
few,
the
I said a
movie.
few words at the end of the movie, and like, I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, there was no Q&A. I was like, okay, guys, thanks a lot. See you later.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's a whole other thing. Like, I would have done it, but they asked me if I wanted to, and I was like, I don't think we need it.
Show me your love by buying a DVD.
Yeah. I, mean,
Blu-ray.
I think we're gonna do a Q&A at the Arcadin, and I think now I'm not quite as exhausted, so I can probably do that and have halfway decent answers. But that night especially, I was so tired.
Yeah.
well, you put in a lot of work just to get the viewing of it there.
Yeah.
Like I know what kind of work we had to do, and mostly Chris and Greg,
Right.
to make sure the picture looked right.
Right.
Because it'll look different at different theaters, and you want to make sure it turns out just fine for this big premiere here in St. Louis.
Because you made a DCP, and we had thought about that, but I was like, I'm not gonna mess with that. We're just gonna go, because we thought about doing a ProRes. Like, according to the guy who runs the theater, is like, well, ProRes usually has problems. Like, all right, we're just gonna go with a high quality MPEG 4, and hope for the best. And we still had to test that and redo that like 5 times, so we got it right.
Yeah. That's tough. Like, and also the interesting thing is like the way it looked at the high point was slightly different than how it looked. Now, it was a Blu-ray at the Philly premiere versus the DCP, but the DCP at the high point was a little darker, which actually worked fine. It was closer to how it looked when I graded it, and then I checked it on like 4 different monitors. In Philly, it was brighter, which was interesting. It wasn't like horrifically brighter, but it was definitely at least one, probably 2, brighter than what I had graded it as. So like being able to see it firsthand on a screen, definitely, and maybe it's because I used a DCP at the high point. Maybe it's just the brightness of their. I don't know.
Yeah, that's just the hardest thing to deal with. Is what is the movie going to look like at various screenings, because it's always a crapshoot.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever really been truly happy at any screening I've ever done anywhere, and I've been really miserable at some.
Right. It's interesting. So you had someone color grade your film, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, again, I do not have access to even a low-end color calibrated monitor. So I had to use the scopes to reference myself, and then I had to put on a laptop and then my phone, and then I checked at someone else's TV to get an idea of what it was going to look like, And I think the best representation was on a laptop and a phone. Personally, I think those were the best, because those monitors probably are kind of calibrated in a specific way, or the screens rather. But like, if you're not using a color calibrated monitor and you're color grading, it's kind of like, oh, well, where's the, where
You
are
don't know what
things?
their true finish is.
Yeah. Even just brightness levels, I mean, it's tough, and then indie film, you're doing a lot of it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, we were able to go down to High Point several times. Were you able to go down there several times and
To High Point?
Yeah, and just work it and work it and work it.
Yeah. So I went down, essentially 3 times all in one day. It was interesting because like at first it wasn't the right file format. Like the actual USB drive wasn't the correct format, or the SSD rather wasn't the right file format. It was like exFAT when it should have been NTFS, and their intake system couldn't read it. Okay, well let me go and get a flash drive from Micro Center, and then come back, and then we transferred it with their laptop over to the USB, tried it again, and then we realized the DCP I made was not right. So, we're 3 hours later at that point. I had to go back home to do a couple promotional interview things, which is a 45-minute drive the opposite direction.
Fuck.
So while I was doing my interviews, I actually I was creating the DCP then. So I'm doing interviews via Zoom. My computer's creating the new DCP, which took like 2.5, 3 hours. And then when it was done, to test it, I had to go all the way back down there again.
So what's your suck again?
Oh, not having enough time, man. Not having enough time in the day.
And how many days before the screening?
That was 2 days beforehand.
Okay, so you had plenty of time.
Yeah. But here's the thing, like a lot of times I feel like I have something else that my time has already been allocated to do for those other days, either like a combination of work or like I had to go pick up the posters.
No, that was your day to get it right.
Yeah, it was.
You still went long.
That was my day off.
Yeah. I didn't realize. All I know is you said sometimes you go to festivals and you don't get a shot to test.
Oh.
And you got what you got. And sometimes it's, like you said, it looks like horrible.
Yeah.
And it's miserable sitting there and you're like, why are we here?
Yeah, because the festival's running, who knows how many films, and they're on a tight timeline. So no, you give them the best file you possibly can, and you hope for the best. And I mean, sometimes you do well, there are times you shoot craps, and that's just how it is.
And you paid them to be in it.
Yes, you paid them to be in it, and then you just sit there and you just sweat it out, and then afterwards you try to explain, no, the film is not really this shitty, and people. Filmmakers get it.
Right.
Other people, not so much.
You don't just pay to be in the festival. You pay for a chance to be in the festival.
That's right.
I just want to correct you there.
Yes, thank you for that correction, because that is very true.
And then once it does enter, then you see just how shitty it looks.
Yeah. After you pay to get there, put a hotel room, whatever you get.
But the good news is, you're probably only going to have like 5 or 6 people who stick around to watch your movie anyway.
Yeah. So 3 of us plus 3 more?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so I got the math right.
One thing you can't control, you can't control the viewing or how many people's going to show, but you can control what you're good at is controlling your message on social media.
Right.
So I'm curious on how you got to that point where you're just like, all right, this is what I'm going to fucking do. This is how I'm going to do it. We get to see what you're doing, but I want the audience to understand your process of how you get it out there so well.
I think it's... I'm not 100% confident that I get it out there so well. I'm going to be honest with you guys.
Better than we get our shit out.
So I think it's a process. I think, when we had our podcast, I don't feel like... I mean, Facebook I had much better results on than like Twitter, And so like now I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Okay. One of my producers was on this app called Slasher for a while, and it's all just horror. And I don't think anything ever happened with that. But, it's out there. One thing that's definitely very, very smart to do is if you're trying to promote anything, it doesn't matter if it's a book sale, if you have a new bottled water you're selling, whatever. It doesn't matter. Hair product, it does not matter.
You looked at me at water and hair product.
Well, water, and then you have good hair, so yeah. So... I think the idea is that if you're going to make one promotional post a day, then you need to make 2 to 3 that are not related to the promotional. Yeah. Or if you're really good, or if you can figure out a way, make a post that isn't directly related to the film, but does come back around insinuating the film somehow. Like I posted a stupid GIF earlier of Santa throwing someone out a window. Yeah. That's not from my film. That's from, and I didn't even mention my film. But, people, it's Christmas anyway, but people are thinking, killer Santas, and it's on theme. I just made a post about Gremlins. That's a Christmas-themed film, and I'm trying to, keep those kinds of things going. It's tough doing that because I don't always have time to watch films and then post about them.
Sure.
So, if I have to watch a 2-hour film and then write something that's halfway legible, which is tough enough, and then post it 2.5 hours in... for one post that 10 people might like, that doesn't necessarily add up in my favor. So sometimes just coming up with stuff that you've already seen or, I think finding new ways to talk about the same thing is the best way to go about doing it. And then we kind of talked about cutting different promotional material.
Right.
So I had very long flights and I was sitting there on my phone and I was the cheapest flight you could get. So they had no Wi-Fi. So I had downloaded a few shows, and then I was sitting there making memes on my phone for Christmas-themed memes that are specifically related to XXX-Mas, So while I was on the plane, I was making stupid memes. Is that really going to promote the film? Well, it has a few people, from the film in the memes, and if people laugh at it and they find it funny, it kind of just reinforces, hey, there's this film that's out there, and maybe we'll watch it, I don't know.
Well, why were you on a plane?
Oh, I was going to Philly, for a premiere, yeah. So
okay, so it's not only just in St. Louis. You have a couple other cities you're gonna.
Yeah.
Well, how was the Philly screening?
The Philly screening was good. We had about 125 roughly in St. Louis. We had about 50 in Philly. Mm-hmm. So I turned to my right. There was a guy that drove 2 hours to come see it. And
nice.
I don't know why I put the guy on the spot, but I was like, what'd you think? And I think it was my instinct. I think it was my instinct of like looking to the guy next to me, my friend, usually my nephew, whoever, after we watched a movie together, and I'd be like, what'd you think?
Right.
And that was kind of my, and he looked at me, he goes, that was a lot better than I was expecting. I said, I'll take that as a win.
Wow,
Okay.
they even knew the response,
I'll-
didn't you, Chris?
I'll take that as a win. Okay, you had fun with it. Good. He bought a Blu-ray. He left. Okay, cool. So yeah, no, we have screenings. We had one at High Point in St. Louis. We had one in Philly. We have another one this Friday at the Arcadin, which is a micro cinema and bar over. I think it's like Bevo. It's like South St. Louis kind of area. I think.
Gravois.
Yeah, we have some coming up in New Orleans also. And
Very
that's
cool.
The 20th and 21st, I believe. Yeah.
And international.
International.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. Yeah. So in July, they someone had contacted me and was asking me a bunch of questions about it, and so it's going to be shown also in Perth, Australia. They're doing Christmas in July.
I was getting ready to say that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's yeah, imagine that.
Wow.
Like deja vu.
It is all over again.
Right. Well, I'm curious how you got them into those places, to be honest.
Right. So it was kind of a combination of. I reached out to a lot of theaters. I did not reach out to Perth. Someone reached out to me. So I think that goes back to also finding people, like, even if all three of you are posting things all day long, you're only going to have the reach you have, right?
Right.
I think it might be more beneficial to find others to share it also, and to
Absolutely.
that have
Agree.
bigger followings, or that half the people on your friends list, I don't know if you have 500 friends, what if 100 of them are friends and family that don't like horror? So 20% of your Facebook friends aren't even, they don't even count because,
Sure.
So it doesn't matter.
Right.
Finding people that have followings that are specific to what you're working on is so vital. And I think from one person that you've networked with, they can put you in touch with someone else, and that one person can make all the difference. So I think the more networking you do, the more talking to people and building these relationships, Nightmare Toys, I think is her name. She's on Instagram. She's on Twitter. She has 20-something thousand followers. She has a successful horror-themed toy company. I'd never talked to her before, ever, in my life. She knew one of the people involved. They told me to contact her. I just finally did it today. She's like, yeah, I want to see this movie. Awesome. I sent it her way, Now, there's also a handful of people that I know that I've been talking to for a long time that have bigger followings. I reached out to 6 or 7 today. Only 2 got back to me. That's fine. That's no big deal. If they want to watch it, they'll check it out, But I know that for the most part, not every single one of them are geared down to specifically horror, but most of them are like horror, like fans, and that's what they post about, and that's their whole like theme, So it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I think that's where you've done a great job too with getting down to that small niche.
Yeah.
Where you knew who that target audience was. You can go after these people that are very specific in what you made for the exploitation and how you made that type of movie. So I think that was very intelligent of you to do that. And I think you're really maximizing that strategy from a marketing standpoint and really just pinpointing these people and saying, hey, you're into what I'm into. Here's something I did. What do you think? Right.
On the flip side of that, Fontaine the Vengeful Nun Who Wouldn't Die is also very like specific. And some people loved it, some people hated it, whatever. But it didn't do very well.
Okay.
And my marketing, my ability to market and my knowledge of marketing has grown since then. It's been a couple of years. The Indiegogo taught me a lot as far as like reaching out to people. I think having the right people in your film also will do a lot. Anyone that has a presence of any kind. I had just started like really digging into like IMDb Pro the other day, and I was looking at the star meters. I don't care where I'm at on a star meter. I don't really care the people I work with are on star meters. I probably should. And then I started dissecting where certain people were and where other people were, and like some of them really shocked me. You have people that are well known in the horror, industry for 40 years, and they're at a certain point, and you have someone that's just been doing it for 3 years, and they're not far behind just because of what they're doing on screen, or if they're showing a little more nudity, they're liked very highly with guys, you know? And if you're selling a film that has a lot of nudity, that's some of your audience, I've tried with very limited success Facebook ads, especially for the premieres, and then
I haven't had much.
What'd you think? What'd you think?
It's not good. It's not good. I am trying them in small doses. I know Jay Horton, who we kind of talked about a little bit beforehand, he's always recommended if you're going to try a new ad like format to do $1 or $2 a day as opposed to like throwing a couple $100 for a 7 days. I've definitely kept it on the lower end, $30-$40 for a week just to see what was going to come back to me. But right off the bat, I knew for both of these films that my audience were males that were 30 to 65. And I then like kept checking on who was clicking through, and it turned out that the audience is males like 32 to 58. I'll make that adjustment if it's going to narrow it down a little bit. I mean, if it's making my money go a little further, sure. I think finding that is, Facebook ads are weird. There's like 5 different interfaces to do the same thing. Each one seems to get more complicated, and it's I don't know. Yeah, it's something I really would like to learn a lot better.
That's a job in itself, just learning that right there.
Yeah, no, I think social media in general is like a whole. I mean, it is. Yeah, people do that professionally.
Yeah.
There is. That's professional. It is professional. And the people that are good at it are really, really good at it. Because you said there's a mix of, if I just keep pushing my movie on people, asking them, doing this, it doesn't work.
No.
Because people are just like, oh, there's James Dean again.
Right.
God bless, come
Right.
on, James, But you got a good mix of, here's a fun little thing. I'm not asking you for anything. Here's a great movie I saw.
Yeah.
Let's chat about it, right? But you stay in my feed.
Right.
Or you stay on something. Every once in a while I'll see XXX-Mas come up and whoa, oh man, he's in Perth, or he's doing this,
Right.
or he's doing
Right.
that, and gives me something maybe to reach out to you for, hey, how'd you do that? Or what was your thing there? So I think you're doing a good job of it.
Thank you.
And even though there's such a more professional level that we can all get
Sure,
better at,
sure.
did you go to any conventions or anything? Or did you do any of that?
We went to Days of the Dead.
Okay.
And that, like I said, that was about a month ago. And I learned things even just from that, like just from going there, One, we were able to break even, and that's a lot because by the time you go there and pay $400 for a table and $300 for a hotel room and food and everything, you have to sell so much just to break even.
Yeah.
But I met a lot of people, and they were filmmakers and they were fans, and hopefully they'll stick around. I had some people buy Fontaine. They didn't know what Fontaine was, our first film. So it was nice that people not only bought our first film, but then they bought our last film. And the one guy came up and we shared the table with Jessa, and she had 7 films that she's been in. And the guy picked up every single one of her films, and then he looked over at us and obviously our, we're not,
Right.
our boobs weren't out,
Yeah.
And, but he looked at us and he's like, yeah, I'll take those 2 also. I'm like, okay, I'm not, sure.
Right.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was really important to kind of take into consideration, at least for Days of the Dead, is I made sure to introduce myself to someone I've been friends with online for a while, but only talked to a couple times, but he runs the film festival there. And it's not a film festival like your typical film festival, I feel like. And maybe I'm wrong because I haven't been to any other film festivals, but you get a free table. I don't care if my stuff plays. If I'm getting a $400 free table, play my film, more people will see it, plus I have a free table. Now we're talking money-wise how I can make this make sense.
Right.
And then all I have to do is cover my hotel and food. It's, that makes sense to me.
That's how the people that know how to do this circuit
Right.
are doing it.
Well, interesting enough, a lot of the people that had films play there was one guy that seemed like he just understood the game through and through. And I think his film had Tony Todd in it, and he probably had a little more experience. And there were other filmmakers I met who were definitely just starting out. I liked their stuff. I talked to them. They bought we did a lot of networking. But they didn't really have anything other than stickers to hand out. They had nothing to sell. If I go there, I guarantee you, if I'm playing something, I'm selling whatever I can at this point.
Right. Yeah, and we talked about having your second movie is better than your first. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think so.
It more
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah, I
right?
think so.
It's probably a little more. So that second movie will drive that first movie, like
Right.
you said.
Right.
We even had a couple of another movie out at our premiere
Yeah.
that people were like, "Oh, what's this?" It wasn't even horror generated
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah,
but they're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"What's this?" So we were able to sell other DVDs just by having it at the table.
Yeah.
So I think that's important when you say
That makes sense because then they see what you can do, and I don't think everyone expects, especially with indie film, they don't expect it. Some people do, but they don't expect it to be super polished necessarily. I think people, especially at a premiere for indie film, understand, especially if they just saw your film. They know there's going to be flaws. We're not working at the $20 million budget where things can be, okay, we need to fly this actor back in and pay them another, whatever. That doesn't happen with indie film too much.
Right.
And so they understand there's going to be mistakes, and they're forgiving. They're a little more forgiving with that. But then I think it's cool to watch the growth. Even just watching your trailers. It was so awesome watching your trailers and seeing, okay, I could see where that was, and then this, and then watching
our trailers that we screened before Red Night. Yeah,
and then watching Red Night, I was like, holy shit! Like, it's growth. Like that's awesome. It was always an idea of mine to go to conventions and sell physical media. My goal was to do that once I had 3 films. I only had 2, but I also found out that Felissa was going to be there, and it was a 5-hour drive. So we got the table, and we went there. Felissa's in XXX-Mas, so it just made sense.
How was she to work with?
She was fantastic. She is honestly one of the sweetest humans I've ever met in my life. I have a story. So my house was on the way... Her hotel was on the way to set from my house. So it just made sense for me to pick her up the one day. I picked her up, and we're on the way to, take her, and she's going to get bloody this day, and we're killing a bunch of people, and it's just chaos. And on the way there, she's telling me, she's like, I just love. And we started talking about, falling in love and being in love, and, she is one of the most kindest, sweetest people I've ever met. I think she's Buddhist. I could be wrong about that. But, when you meet her and talk to her, there's definitely, this centered... you could show up and have that person that's just negative, really negative, and she will almost ignore it and just still be positive. And you know how that is on set. It only takes one person to bring everything down.
Very true, especially when it's late or you're running. Yeah.
I mean, and things go wrong on an indie film set. Yeah. So, having those people around that have that presence, especially with someone that's been doing this for 40 years and is so well liked, there's a lot of reasons she's that well liked. She hugs every fan at a con, and she spends time with every single person. At Days of the Dead, I went and I didn't want to bother her because people are getting autographs and all that stuff. But I eventually later on in the day, I went over there to say hi. She gave me a hug. She's like, people have been coming over here with Blu-rays and posters and everything. And then she's like, oh my God, it's Eileen. You know who Eileen is, right? And I turned around, it was Eileen Dietz from The Exorcist. She's like, you need to put Eileen in something. And I'm sitting here talking to someone that was in The Exorcist, and then Felissa, and I'm sitting here in the middle like a big doof. And I'm like, let me get out of your way because they were trying to hug each other.
Yeah, excuse me.
Right. But she's amazing.
So is your strategy to go to more?
I would like 3 to 5 this next year.
Okay.
Probably.
Now, would you plan that around her schedule, to try to?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. She's at almost all of them, I feel like. If there's a big con that's out there, I think she's at it usually. I just think it would be the ones that are closest or that I know people at probably. I definitely want to do a couple cons after Absolution comes out if the timing is right. I'm right now looking at probably fall for that. So we'll see. And then, of course, fall going on will lend itself to more Christmas-themed sales and whatnot as far as XXX-Mas. So, and my guess is, going to new cons, people will never have heard of that still next year. So
Are you doing festivals at all?
Nah. I mean, it's online. People want to watch it, they can rent it.
Tell us about that, actually.
It's on newvillagevideo.com. Okay. So it's not on, you can't just, pull it up on your Samsung TV, but you can laptop, tablet. You can cast it from those devices to your TV.
Sure.
Yeah, it's on there. They definitely lend themselves to, exploitation and indie films. I didn't know when I signed up with them, but apparently one of the co-owners is a filmmaker also. And she seems awesome. I just dealt with Larry at first, the co-owner, and he seemed nice, and the deal was good. I was able to, that was kind of, I don't want to say backup plan, but that was my safety net as far as I knew I was going to go with them first. I knew I was going to go with them first because it only took a week from me delivering the film and all the artwork and everything for it to go live. And then the other ones are Amazon and Tubi and whatnot, and that takes a lot longer. I go through FilmHub typically, which is an aggregator, but right now they've been going through a redevelopment phase with their site and everything, and I've heard nothing but kind of iffy stuff as far as your film getting out on time. And
what is on time? What's the time frame they give?
So that's the other thing with FilmHub is right now they don't give you a time.
Oh, damn.
They basically put it out into an open market. And then first thing is it shows if a site selects it. So Amazon's already selected XXX-Mas. That doesn't even mean it's ever going to go on their site. And then it can take, I think if you wait 12 weeks, you're supposed to email them to get feedback. They did just start a new process where you can pre-plan very specific release dates, but that costs extra.
Okay.
Everything costs, they're supposed to be an aggregator. I know initially we're talking about that they weren't a production company or a distributor. They were a tech company that put put the two pieces together. It's interesting. With Fontaine, I wanted to go to Tubi directly, and I wanted to approach them directly, and I started looking into everything as far as the artwork and all their specifications. And then I got so far, and I realized that a year earlier, they stopped taking submissions directly.
Yep. And now it's through Film Hub.
Yeah.
I just told these guys that tonight. I was just like, hey, so much for Tubi just being off the list going direct.
I think Tubi is in the process of becoming what Amazon was 5-6 years ago, which was the best platform that would pay you out and the most friendly to indie filmmakers. But it also means that in the next couple of years, it won't be
It's going to be somebody else.
It'll be somebody else. Yep. Yeah. They'll build that platform. It'll become popular. And then,
So is this just for a certain territory, like North America?
No, this is anywhere.
Is it global?
Yeah, anywhere. Okay. Although there was an Egyptian guy who said he couldn't download or he couldn't access it, but I think that's more to do with his country not wanting him to
see some exploitation. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. So, yeah, it should be anywhere that you have internet and your country's not blocking you access to certain sites. You should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You happy with the deal? You happy?
Yeah. I think that they are. Yeah, I think they're great with that.
They're very transparent.
They're very transparent. They will give you quarterly reports, which is, that's fine. I know another filmmaker, so this is how I kind of even was turned on to them. Another filmmaker I had interviewed put out a movie called Murder Size. You saw the trailer.
Yep.
You saw the trailer.
Yep.
And Drew Marvick and Jessa Flux, two people that are in XXX-Mas, they actually are in that film. And he premiered their film there. And they were the #1 selling. So talking about watching people and like taking little bits from people and how you can use one person's tactics and then maybe combine them with someone else's tactics and kind of create your own path forward. I've been watching Angie and Paul Ragsdale and how they approach things for a while, and we interviewed them. They do primarily like slashers and exploitation films, and it always involves like nudity or girls running around in lingerie. And I didn't go full on the same way they went with the marketing, and maybe that'll hurt me. They are very front and center with showing like girls with very little clothing on all of their marketing, which is fine. Like I understand that'll get the clicks, you know.
Yeah.
I've seen people do that with stories where the story is something completely unrelated, but they'll show a
bait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've never touched those things.
Yeah. No,
You don't know what he's talking about?
No.
I've heard. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh no, I think being as like authentic as possible is probably the way to go. Or at least the illusion of being authentic.
Yeah.
I have a hard time. I was talking to someone. This is not about filmmaking at all. I was talking to someone about posting like pictures of me and my girlfriend. I'm ridiculous. I'm in love with this person, right? And like sometimes it feels inauthentic for me to post pictures of me and her on social media and tell people that, even though I am. And I do it every so often, and it's not for anyone's benefit but my own. But sometimes it just feels. Sometimes social media feels pretty hollow to me. You know?
No, it is.
You think?
Yeah. No, it really does. And like.
Yeah.
Well, why are you putting something out there? It's for that feeling that you get back. Maybe for you, it's whatever it is. No, that's.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Probably 90% of the people that are using it for that, they want something back from it.
Sure. It's a dopamine hit.
It is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel special, or you want something from somebody. Go buy a movie.
Right.
Go check this out. See what I'm doing. See what I'm about. Whether it's fake, real, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's
Because that's the thing. I mean, all of us, everyone we've interviewed, us included, we're all after the same thing. We're all trying to get our films out there. We're all trying to get people to buy our films, to buy into us as filmmakers, so we can make another movie. You know, and we all go about it. You know, we might go about it in a roundabout way, but we're all after the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate having James on here, because you talk honestly and open about your experiences.
Yeah.
Going, this is what I did. This is how I did it. I had a backup plan, knowing I might go with this company. But you also had that to say, I'm not going to go anywhere unless I have some place for them to go see my movie.
Right.
Yeah. I have to give them something at the end of this to go, hey, by the way, this is available here, or do you have a Blu-ray or whatever you have?
Right. And also, earlier that week, anyone that purchased any kind of physical media on through our Indiegogo, I sent out screeners, and those screeners are just a YouTube link. You know, eventually someone's going to pirate the movie. You know,
right?
Probably 10 minutes ago. Yeah.
10 minutes ago.
There's a filmmaker, his name is Sean Burkett, and you may have never heard of his film, but it has done very well. His first one was called Don't Fuck in the Woods. He made a sequel.
I have heard of
You
that.
saw the sequel's trailer. I played the sequel's trailer, I think, or maybe I played it in Philly.
I don't think he played in St. Louis.
So Don't Fuck in the Woods, right? His second one is it's a completely, as far as quality, it's like 10 steps up. I mean, it's amazing. First one was very, very amateur effort.
Sure.
But it was like so much that it was pirated 2 million times. They found out.
That poor guy. That
Right,
sucks.
right. And it
pisses me
still
off.
made them pretty decent money based on the numbers he was telling me. So like, it's gonna happen. They found some level of distribution. They have a sales agent. They went the whole route with that. And I don't know how much they spent on it, but it wasn't. It had to be well under 20 grand.
Right.
And it does hurt. And to think, 2 million people pirated this film. If each one would have just paid $1.
I know.
Yeah.
I get half to somebody, I'd have $1 million. Exactly.
Yeah, right, yeah. But I think what you said is exactly right, though. Like, my interest with social media, I might get rid of it altogether if it wasn't for me wanting to connect with people and to be able to make more things in the future.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I think it all serves that.
Here's the thing I've learned. I've always been supportive of other filmmakers. I've always, tried to go out and see other people's stuff. I mean, can you see everything? No, you can't.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work out that way. But I think there's a lot of filmmakers I know who never go see and never support anyone else's shit but their own. It's like, that's such a mistake. You got to involve yourself in the community if you want the community to involve yourself with you. That's otherwise there won't be a community.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, I think it's starting to build up, trend in a better, more positive way now, because the last couple of months we've seen quite a few independent films.
Oh yeah,
and we've seen a lot of the same independent filmmakers there. There could be a lot more because there's apparently a lot more in St. Louis.
Yeah.
From what I see people pushing, but I don't always see them like you said. But it's trending in a better.
It feels like it is. I mean, it's so important. You got to go out and watch other people's stuff because you can't keep taking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You can't just keep expecting people to support your crowdfund, support your film, support your whatever if you don't do the same thing for them.
No, I completely agree. I have a stack of films that either I had bought or that people had handed me, and yeah, I have a stack at my house that when I take my break in January, those are the first ones I'm gonna like start digging through, and they're all independent films. Like they're all independent.
Cool,
films.
man.
Yeah. No. I mean, like lately, if it's not older like '80s films or earlier or independent, I have very little interest in. Watching it. I mean, there's some newer films that come out, but I feel like a lot of them are so similar. Like especially a lot of more modern horror. They're so polished and
the formula and this.
and like I'm not a fan of Blumhouse. Like I don't know what the hell they're doing. I guess they're making money, but
they're making money.
but I mean, I'm not overall. There's a few that snuck in there. But
I'm not a huge fan of like downer horror.
Yeah.
And what I mean by downer horror, like the movies that I like the most are, as far as horror films, and they're mostly from the early 80s, but the stuff that I really have always liked the most is The Thing, American Werewolf in London.
Horror's the Thing is a downer.
It is and it's not. It has a satisfying ending.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And American Werewolf in London, yeah, I mean,
Right.
he dies in the end.
Yeah.
But it still has a very sad, well, it's a 40-year-old movie, man. Spoiler alert. But, I mean, I don't like something that, how can I put it? Like a lot of the modern horror films just have this kind of negative downer. You don't give a shit about any of the characters and it just ends. It's like, why did I invest my time in this?
Even The Shining is awesome.
Yeah, it is. The Shining. Okay, Wendy and Danny, they get away, right?
Yep.
And Jack freezes to death. My girlfriend, she had never seen it all the way through.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we just watched it, I don't know, a couple nights ago, and I'm like, God damn, it's such a good movie.
Yeah.
And she was jumping and she was scared
Because it holds up.
It holds up.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that really moves me and the kind of stuff I want to make. And I'm not saying Red Knight is on par with any of those films, but
Right.
I like something that leaves you with something other than what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like there's two main kinds of films that I enjoy, and one is What the Hell Did I Just Watch? I actually do like those. As you could tell, I mean, you watch XXX-Mas, you know that you probably had that feeling, what the hell did I just watch?
No, it makes
that's fair.
sense,
I mean,
though.
I think that's a fair.
That's fair.
And that's kind of what. That's
Watch
kind
it
of,
again.
Yeah, watch it again. If you didn't understand the first time, watch it again.
No, but it was a fun movie.
Right.
It
And
wasn't.
that was the goal.
Yeah, it wasn't a downer. It wasn't like super
No,
negative.
no.
Yeah.
You know,
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and that's usually when I send out a screener, or if I ask anyone, that's what I'll ask them is, did you have fun with it? Because that was what I was going for.
Right, no.
Obviously, you know. And so I think there's the fun movies, and then there's the ones that I think you're kind of a little maybe more interested in, and those are the ones that keep you thinking about them after the fact.
Yeah.
Right, and kind of, yeah, and I love those also. I mean, like, I don't know, film is just, like, in general, it's just, to me, it's always been, it's like my first love, honestly. Like, I just love film. I love watching movies, I love making movies. It's way easier to watch them. It's way easier to watch them.
You're right. It's easier to watch them. Hell, it's easier to make them. It's hard as hell to sell them.
It is.
Oh, well,
That's the real bitch of
Yeah.
it.
One thing I wanted to go back around to with you had mentioned marketing and social media. If you're ever not sure what to say to get people to respond to a post, just ask them an open-ended question. Because if I ask you a question, 9 times out of 10, most people want to hear themselves talk.
Bill Moseley is perfect with that.
He does at the end, like, what's inquiring monsters? You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got,
It is. It's a way to get the feedback.
Yeah.
It's a way to get people talking.
You're right.
It's a way
That's
people
it's a good-
respond to. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I've seen firsthand companies have spreadsheets of questions to ask that were pre-planned that they approached it that way. And I've been sent them and told, you can use something like this, just don't use these.
really.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. No.
So
Yeah.
you were digging deep.
When you start to dig deep on these things, you can start to understand how it works a little better,
Right.
and then you can attack it from that angle. You know, a guy that was in the film, Joey Mann, he played Mike, the boom pole guy.
Yep.
He, the audio guy. He made a short film with another actress that's involved, Morgan, who played the lead.
Yep.
And I told him, I said, if you really want to start getting people to engage, because they wanted to raise, I think, $5,000 or whatever for the short film, and I think they raised most of it. You know, I said the first thing you need to do is go ask an open-ended question, and he did it, and then like he had like 40 or 50 replies, and he messaged me back. He's like, "Holy shit, that works!" I was like, "Yeah,
It's a good idea.
it does work actually." Yeah, I like,
It stays in the feed. The more questions, it keeps.
Yeah.
And
cycling
hopefully
through.
somebody clicks on that, or not clicks on it, but they get talking about something, and something happens, and it sparks a whole nother.
and even if that doesn't happen, it's telling the algorithm that your feed is important enough to show to other people. And that's what you want. That's
Yep.
why, you know, like you make the Gremlins post. I love Gremlins. I will watch Gremlins this year. You make the Gremlins post. It's like an evergreen post. It's where everyone loves Gremlins. Well, most people love Gremlins. Even if they don't love it, they'll tell you they don't love it. Either way, they're feeding the
Right.
algorithm that puts me in front of them more.
Well, here's the thing about Gremlins, because I mean, I hadn't seen it in years and years. Bought the Blu-ray a couple of years ago. It's a fun movie, but it's actually pretty shitty. Like the main, I can't remember what's the main character's
Billy.
name? Billy.
Billy.
Billy's a fucking moron.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and I didn't realize that, you know, whatever, 40 years ago when I first saw it first
Julian
came
and
out.
Gizmo.
Yeah. But I just rewatched it like last year. I'm like, Billy is a fucking idiot.
No, his dad was an idiot.
His dad was an idiot, but so was Billy.
His dad was an
No,
idiot.
wasn't
for
his
sure.
dad like an inventor
I
or
like
something?
Billy.
An inventor of things that never worked.
Yeah.
And he brought Gizmo to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
know.
that's why he's saying he's an idiot.
But
yeah.
no, everything Billy does
but
in
who
the
fed him
movie,
after midnight?
just watch it again. Watch it again. And everything that happens is because Billy's a fuck up.
Well, that's the catalyst, though.
You
You
wouldn't have
need
a
that
movie if you
character in
didn't.
there. What's
Man,
Billy
that-
doing today?
You wouldn't have a gremlin if all you had was a mogwai, not getting into trouble, man.
That's right.
You have to have
But
somebody.
guess what
fuck up.
happens at the end? Town gets destroyed, and the thing goes back to the old Chinese guy or whatever he was, Japanese or whatever he was.
Don't get me
yeah.
wrong, I love Gremlins, but Billy's a moron.
Billy, yeah.
He's a first class idiot.
Have you guys seen Fright Night? You know
Oh,
Fright Night.
I
yeah,
love
of course,
Fright
yeah.
Night.
Have you ever looked at the guy? I can't remember his name. Rod? Is it Rod something? The older guy for the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, Roddy McDowell.
Roddy McDowell. Thank you. You ever have you watched it recently?
No.
He doesn't have gray hair. He has silver white. They painted his hair like white.
Did they?
And if you watch it on Blu-ray, it's the most obviously ridiculous thing, just to make him look older. Like, and now I can't not see it. It doesn't ruin the film for me, but it's like, why why is his hair white? Like, it's not even like...
Because he didn't know the technology was going to catch up to the makeup.
High def was not around.
It's like when High Def came out and the newscasters were all like on it. Like, what the
I never
hell?
noticed that, but man,
Now you have to go back and rewatch it.
I love Fright Night. That is one of my top vampire movies.
Yeah,
It's a good one.
It's so good.
It is.
Yeah.
Hopefully this won't ruin it for you.
They can't unsee it. They can't unthink it.
Right, yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, because I know it's getting late because we had to do this twice, Chris. But go back to where we can see XXX-Mas.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, like monsterkidfilms.com.
Okay.
XXX-Mas. It'll show you, it'll give you, monsterkidfilms.com. It'll take you, you can click on XXX-Mas. It'll show you anywhere where it's screening. It'll show you the streaming links where you can buy it. It's all there for sure. newvillagevideo.com/XXX-Mas, and that'll take you there also.
Do you think the Village one again?
New Village
New
Video?
Village Video. Do you think they will have their own platform eventually?
Maybe eventually. I think they actually just started this a couple years ago.
Really? Okay.
So yeah, I think that's really tough. That's a whole nother conversation
It is,
that I
yeah.
think that I've seen a lot of people start to like try to dig into.
Mm-hmm.
They may not need to, and they may not want to, because it's becoming so overly saturated right now.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I to say this? But I think that we're probably going to start seeing a paring down of streaming services,
hope so.
or like them like teaming up and then doing a bundled package like cable. I think that's probably.
No, I think you're going to get a few more Netflix come out of this.
Yeah.
That you're going to see blossom into these things,
Yeah.
and that's going to probably cap it out at that.
Yeah.
And then you're right, you're going to see a bunch of these have to survive, so they're going to have to team up.
I
Yeah.
think we're almost at the tipping point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, years ago when video stores were a thing. It exploded, and then there was a video store in every corner. And then eventually, they all got...
Well, then Blockbuster
killed them,
Right.
and Hollywood Video, and then streaming killed
And Netflix killed
that.
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Right. Do you remember? I know we're gonna wrap this up, but do you remember like going through Schnucks or like any shopping, whatever?
They all had videos.
The Red
Yeah.
Box.
They not only did they have like the video stores, but some of them had them just on the end aisle where you could rent videos, like sitting on the end, like at the checkout.
No, I had a Schnucks card
Yeah,
to
yeah,
rent videos
yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I mean, like you're right, it was everywhere.
Yeah. And
Where-
now it's, gone.
Well, where I think it's kind of headed is with this AVOD really picking up for
Yes.
us to get our money.
Yeah.
Maybe. I kind of like what Paramount has done. Like I watch Yellowstone a lot. It's a huge success, right?
Sure.
So you have to buy the Paramount Plus platform, right? Mm-hmm. And then they throw commercials in it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So they're double dipping a little bit. The way it seems to me with the AVOD really picking up is, man, I hope it doesn't go to this. I've mentioned this to you before, Chris, but if they're going to start throwing commercials in your movie to make money, which I get, that's what you need to do. Do you think we're going to have to start writing in almost like an episodic type of, I don't know, episodes?
You've mentioned this, but I don't think so because, okay, here's the thing about ABOT, ad-based video on demand.
Right.
This was the platform, what we had growing up forever before cable. You watch TV, you watch a commercial. That was part of the equation.
Yeah.
And there were always old movies shown on TV.
Yeah.
There was, Channel 11, local station, Channel 30. They showed old movies all the time, and those movies were, first run films back in the day. So they were not designed. They were not written for commercial.
But they do cut things out to fit the time slot.
Sure.
Yeah. There's one thing that I know Film Hub does is it gives you the option, and it only is within a couple minutes, like because they want you to. They're going to run ads every 10 minutes,
skip
12
or
minutes, whatever. But like they'll give you an option. Do you want it at the 10-minute mark or the 12-minute mark? And they'll let you like get in there and like. Now I didn't do it for XXX-Mas. I did for Fontaine, where I like actually picked where I thought that it would be best. And usually it was like right before the cut or right at the cut. I also feel like AI is going to be getting so good that it'll be able to find the cut and just place it there.
That'd be great.
That would be nice.
Because
yeah.
so far what I've seen is when I've watched some independent films on like on Hulu or whatever, Tubi, man, it'll be in the middle of a sentence even. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, but I think they have to find that it's not about. It's the timing of where the commercial is for the span of how the viewer's looking at it. That's what the marketing's all about.
Yeah.
Not about. So that's why it's just stuck in there. That's why they say between 8:30 and 8:45 there has to be a commercial because after that they may not be watching this movie again. right? So
Yeah,
they got
for
that all figured out on the human psyche. They understand where ads go in. They understand all that stuff. So I agree with what you're saying. You may have to say 8 minutes into this movie because you know that 8 minutes is the key point, or 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And that's why there's less commercials at the end, right?
Yeah.
Or less ads.
I think you're onto something. Like it's all going back to what will get them the best results.
Right, they don't care what your
100%.
movie is because they're not even pairing commercials with movies yet.
Yeah.
To say, right, they may throw a tampon or ad in the
Right.
middle of a film that has nothing to do with
That women are
females even
watching.
watching it. Exactly.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So they haven't even paired that yet. They said that's a strategy that they need to get better at.
It's coming.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would think so. I know that. I brought him up several times, but Jay Horton had interviewed someone, and he was from like an analytical, marketing background, where it was all about the numbers and how things correspond. And I don't remember what his title was specifically, but he was talking about how your film being popped up on like any kind of platform, not platform, but just showing up in people's feeds or anything. It's more likely going to be promoted if you have things like pictures of the actors have pictures on IMDb, and Amazon owns IMDb. So like, if all the actors have pictures, the director has a picture, it's going to there's not a human doing this. That's like a software that's doing that.
Yeah.
And on down the line. So there's a lot of these little things that we don't even think about that they do think about, and they have these statistics and these numbers backing up what'll lead to more, a more likelihood that someone's going to watch it. And they feed that into the overall algorithm, and that kind of feeds the decision making on their end. It's interesting. Like, I didn't think about it from those standpoints, but it makes sense.
But I think that's why they want to redo your key art or your...
Sure.
Because they have that supposed information that they've done because they paid for the research or they paid for this, and they say, if you did this with these people,
right,
this is why it's going to sell
right.
better.
I heard recently also it's good to have more than one poster, that a month after your release, if you do another poster,
they're like, ooh,
people will be like, oh, I haven't seen this one.
Yeah.
Or even if they did, maybe it's another, if they saw the poster before, but now they're seeing a different poster, it may relate to them in a different way, and it may bring them in when before the other one didn't for whatever reason. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know.
That's interesting. I think there's ad dollars to be thrown out. They're getting such a great deal to be on these little platforms. They have ad dollars to spend. And that's where I think we all can benefit from that, and that's why I think these platforms are very popular for us right now.
Yeah.
So, good for us.
We'll see where it goes. Yeah.
Look at us. Yeah.
You know what else is popular?
What's that, Greg?
When we talk about the highs, the lows, and the in-betweens. True independent filmmaking.
We covered it all today, I think.
Yes, we
Twice.
did.
On the Any Film Sucks podcast.
Thanks to James Dean for
Thank you,
stepping
James.
in
Guys,
again.
thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good luck to your film.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're on all the social stuff and, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Denmark, if you're still out there, buddy, we miss you.
We do. Good night.
All right, thanks, guys.
Indie film sucks. Indie film sucks. It's the Indie Film Sucks podcast. Yeah.